Alright, hi everyone. We're going to go ahead and talk briefly about the requirements for your story of an hour essay. And I wanted to go ahead and just record myself talking with you about this here so that if you have questions or want a refresher on any of the expectations, you can come back and get those right here. So first off, these are the essential questions as we write this essay on the story of an hour. I will let you read over those yourself. What I really want to focus in on right here is the strategy that I would like you to use as you compose your essay. So first off, you've got the prompt, which is on your assignment sheet. It says to read and annotate Kate Chopin's The Story of an Hour, and then you'll be writing an essay discussing Mrs. Mallard's conflict in the story and how she deals with the conflict. You want to be sure to include details and examples from the story to support your ideas. And prior to writing your essay, you need to complete the 7 strategies in a nutshell, which are listed out right here. So the first strategy, you want to be sure you just carefully read the prompt, which I've just done for you. So read through the prompt, make sure you understand what it is saying. If there are any vocabulary words in the prompt that you do not know, that are unfamiliar to you, you should look those words up. In this situation, I think you'll probably know most of the words, but if there are any words you're unfamiliar with, you should look them up. Secondly, you want to underline the words which give specific, direct, or important instructions or topics to address. Sometimes on the AP exam and in the test that you'll take in this class, there will be multiple parts to a writing prompt. So it's very good practice for you to go ahead and actually write on the prompt and break it down to make sure you know the specific things you need to actually accomplish in writing your essay. Thirdly, you want to pull out and bullet the words and directions that you underlined. So you'll notice that part of the directions say to write an essay. That tells you this needs to be multiple paragraphs long. So one of your bullet points might be essay, and then you might put directions out to the side of that for number 4 where you brainstorm answers for the bullets. You might write a note that this probably needs to be 4 to 5 paragraphs long. Also, another thing you might pull out and bullet is how she deals with the conflict. That's part of what you must address in this essay. So pull out all the parts you find important and necessary to respond to and make a bullet point list. Once you make that bullet point list, you want to brainstorm answers to each of the bullet points. Some of your answers may be more lengthy than others depending on what you make in your bulleted list, but you need to go ahead and brainstorm all of those answers to whatever you've added in your list. Fifth, you're going to use those answers that you come up with from your bullet point list to help you brainstorm your thesis. Keep in mind that your thesis is 1, sometimes 2 sentences that essentially tell your readers what the entire essay will be about. Your thesis should never begin with you saying, in this essay, I'm going to talk about, and then blah, blah, blah. You want to be sure that you're stating a claim, but not using the first person. So using words like I or me, those are absolute words to avoid. You want to just simply put forth your claim without saying I think or I feel or I believe. Number 6, I've already briefly mentioned this. You do want to be sure that you decide how many paragraphs to use in your essay based on the prompt. In this case, it says essay, so you know that's usually going to be probably 4 or 5 paragraphs. And then the final step is to pre-write for the body paragraphs that will be in your essay. I mentioned bulleting out the primary important parts in your essay prompt, and right here I've actually already kind of broken down the prompt for you since this is our first time doing it. If I was doing this, I would definitely want to consider discussing Miss Mallard's conflict, how she deals with the conflict, and then this note right here to include examples and details from the story. Those are 2 other directives that I must be sure to accomplish if I'm writing this essay. Here's an example of how you might go ahead and break down her conflict and how Miss Mallard deals with the conflict. Since those 2 things are deeply related, I might start out by listing out Miss Mallard's conflicts in one column and I might then give how she responds to those conflicts in another column. And then you could even potentially add a third and a fourth column over here to give examples and details from the story. And keep in mind that examples and details from the story will sometimes be references to direct quotes, and other times it will be you giving summary of events that happen in the story. However, every time you're giving any kind of reference that's specific, that's quoted word for word from the story or the novel or whatever text you are referencing, please remember that you must cite it in NLA format. If you need a refresher, be sure you go back and look at the NLA format assignment from last week. Finally, a couple suggestions for you on how you might structure your essay. There are 5 different ways you could potentially go about writing this essay. Option 1 would be for you to start out with an introduction, and you'll notice no matter which option you choose, you're always going to have to start with an introduction. So option 1, you would start with an introduction, and then you would write 1 paragraph to tell about Miss Mallard's first conflict. Then you'd write a paragraph to tell about her second conflict, and then you would write a 4th paragraph to tell how she deals with both conflicts. After that, you would include a conclusion paragraph where you sum everything up and also discuss why this new knowledge that you've gained and discovered through explaining her conflicts and how she deals with the conflicts, why that is important for people to understand and to be aware of. A second option would be, again, to begin with an introduction. Then you might discuss Miss Mallard's first conflict and how she deals with that conflict. So here you're blending these 2 bullet points that you've identified into 1 paragraph. Then you would want to discuss her second conflict and how she deals with that second conflict. And then a 3rd conflict and how she deals with the 3rd conflict. And again, you must end with a conclusion. Sample 3, how you might structure your essay. Again, introduction to start with. Then you might discuss Miss Mallard's first conflict and how she deals with the conflict. Then you might discuss her second conflict and how she deals with the second conflict. And in this example, only 3 conflicts are discussed. You'll notice back on the directions where we have the prompt, says discuss Miss Mallard's conflict and the story and how she deals with the conflict. So it actually does not say you have to discuss a specific number of conflicts. So you theoretically could respond and just discuss 2 of her conflicts and still write this essay effectively. However, I do caution you, if you choose to go with example 3 or example 4 or 5, you want to be sure that your ideas are fully developed, because since it's a shorter essay, there is a tendency in many cases to not go as deeply in analysis as you might if you're writing a more lengthy essay. Example 4, in this one, you might just write 1 paragraph to give all of Miss Mallard's conflicts, and then a 2nd paragraph in the body to tell how she deals with all of those conflicts, and then a conclusion. In my personal opinion, I would suggest not to choose this option unless you're very, very careful and intentional with how you structure the essay, because if you discuss all of her conflicts at one time, there's the potential for your paragraph to become very bogged down. Again, this could work if you're careful with it, but you don't want to choose this option unless you have a very specific plan for how you want to organize the 2 body paragraphs to make sure that your readers can follow your argument. The final example would be to, again, start with an introduction and end with a conclusion, and then have 1 large body paragraph that discusses both the conflicts that Miss Mallard experiences and how she deals with those conflicts. Again, if you choose this option, you want to be very, very careful with your organization. This is an option. You can absolutely choose it, but you want to be sure that if you choose this option, you're very organized so that your readers can follow along. These are the 5 different ways you may choose from for structuring your essay. If you have an alternative method that you are considering for structuring your essay, I would encourage you to run it by me before you actually write the essay using that strategy, just to be sure that you're going to be accomplishing the essay and scoring well. If you have any questions, please let me know. That way we can talk about whatever ideas or concerns you might have. Otherwise, I'm going to leave you to it, and best of luck.